I'm Barbara Peters. Welcome to another episode of the Criminal Calendar. I'm going to dazzle you with this introduction, which I've been practicing. Dobry den.
Oh, cocktail.
Jak wyperzywajcie.
Хорошо.
And thus we have welcomed Martin Cruz Smith, author of the Arkady Renko series and a ream of other novels we'll talk about. Basically, I've said good day in Russian and asked him how he was, and he said great.
I can't do great. I can only do good.
Oh, good. Sorry. Well, хорошо. It has kind of a nice...
Maybe a bolshoi хорошо.
Well, that is good. See, you did know more words than I thought.
I'm making up Russian as I go along.
When you go to Russia, how do you get by?
Well, thank God I've got a team. And that is to say, I have an interpreter who's very good and very sharp, and somebody who catches on what I'm after. It's very important. I've been through a lot of assistants, and there are those who can really imagine the goal that you're after and can get through about 4 questions quickly on their own, which is wonderful. And then I've had assistants who think they have a better idea. I can't stand that.
You mean they're thinking for you?
Yes, and then there are some people who just at a total loss because they don't understand what I'm after, because what I'm after when I'm in Moscow is so ephemeral. It's, I want to know why is this named this? What is this street sign about? And what is that lady doing over there? And so it's always, just all the little bits of life that lie at your feet, I try to sweep up. And for a lot of interpreters, this is just lunatic.
It's too vague?
It's way too vague. And then I get excited about something, and they say, well, why are you excited about this metro running into this other train here, and the tunnel is there? I say, but don't you see how it all fits together? And they're saying, well, of course it fits together. It's the subway. But it's very tricky what I do, and kind of totally illogical.
But you have the architecture of the story in mind, and they can't really show that, can they?
Sometimes I have the architecture of the story in mind. But if I see something interesting, I'll pursue it, no matter whether it seems to be connected or not, because what I like about what I do is that it gives me license to ask all kinds of questions about all sorts of things. So if I see an artist of mine, I'm in, say, Kyoto or Tokyo, and I see an artist who's painting or working a woodblock print, I will go up and talk to him and develop some kind of rapport with him, and so he'll want to tell me about what he's doing. And although that wasn't going to be in the book, now, because I ran into this gentleman, it will be.
So you can put in the telling detail, but you can't really predict what it might be.
No, it's totally, and because what I don't want to find is what I already know. Sure. I want to find what I didn't know. And fortunately for me, there's an awful lot I don't know. So.
Do you know, when you were mentioning the metro, I was thinking to myself, I hadn't previously thought of Moscow as being a place, where metros were a big deal. But as I understand it, they are absolute works of art. They're in fact,
yes.
If you go there on a tour package or something, one of the things they do is take you down and
yes.
show you these beautiful Russian train
with
stations.
many semi-precious stones being used. The idea being to show that this was the people's palace. It was underground, but it was the people's palace, and architects and artists were invited to come and make designs for. So each metro stop has a theme, and it may be the theme of a metro stop may be named for a city, and so the aspects of that city will be incorporated in the decoration. And of course, there's less of it from the 60s on. They get a lot more shabby and ordinary, but the original ones were spectacular.
Is there more respect for what was achieved in the sense of you don't have vandals running around with graffiti or prying things loose? Have they been able to preserve this?
There's a lot of pride. Well, there's also a lot of people. There are always people in there. It shuts down around 2 in the morning, and then it starts up again about 5:30. And there are always people there, and there are always subway conductors who are very women of a certain size and age who make sure that nothing is defaced. And if something is defaced, it's cleaned up right away.
Those babushkas are supposed to be really scary. So
They can be scary, yeah.
Yeah. I like the French phrase, better une femme d'un certain âge, which I've always
Yes.
thought was a nice way of saying you're middle-aged now, kid.
Well, these are women. They're serious women. You know, they've got some heft. They have a baton, and they have a lot. They operate with a lot of respect. It always surrounds these women.
So when you wrote Gorky Park back in 1981, had you been to Russia?
Yeah, I went in 1973, and I was only in Russia for 2 weeks, and in Moscow for 5 days. But I was pretty much entirely on my own, and I went wherever I wanted to, and I saw what I had not expected, which was that it was a mess. It was about to collapse. And it was a danger only to much more to itself than to anybody else. And so this was not the powerful enemy I had expected. And that's what and also I could see just by using my God-given eyes, I saw the kind of relationship people had with each other and how warm that was. And it was in such a gray 1984 kind of landscape, cityscape. And I wanted to write about that. I hadn't expected that, and so I was there for 5 days, but it really shaped the entire book.
First books of yours that I ever read were your Canto for a Gypsy.
Yes.
And was there one more or two more?
Gypsy and Amber.
Right, Gypsy and Amber. For some reason, I've always thought there were three, just the two.
No, just two.
Okay, and they're set in Budapest.
Well,
in part. I mean, you've got St. Stephen's Crown. Yeah, but didn't they actually end up in Budapest at some point? Or am I just imagining? Well, you would know.
I don't think so.
Why did I think that was the case?
Because the crown was going to be sent back to Budapest.
Yeah, the cathedral in Budapest.
Yeah, and I did some research on that. I guess it was being shown in St. Patrick's Cathedral.
Okay.
And that's where the heist took place.
Right. I remember the heist, but I don't know why I thought we ended up in Budapest. Well,
maybe we did. I never reread my books, which is why even in this series, of the Renko series, there are books that say utterly different things about Arkady because I can't stand to go back and read an old book of mine is to remember. Oh yeah, I really intended this page to be stunning, a winner full of pith and wit and wisdom, and look, all I got was pith.
Uh-huh. Well, the reason I mentioned it was that I was lucky enough to go to Budapest myself a few years ago, and at the cathedral I was astonishingly knowledgeable among the other alumni about the crown and all, and they were all going, how did you know that? And I said, well, I'm a fan of Martin Cruz Smith, and I've read his 2 books there, which told me all I needed to know.
Well, I had learned, I did those books. This comes up with the finances of crime writing, which is why nobody should go into it. Because I did Gypsy and Amber, and it was nominated for an Edgar, and it was printed widely in Europe, and went to book clubs. For that book, I was paid for about a year's work, $2,500.
Is that big money in 1970, whatever, when you wrote it?
I don't think so.
Okay.
And so for how well the first book had done, they offered me another contract, the next contract for a book for $2,200. I just felt this is walking into the wind.
Right.
This is not the way to do this.
But you kept writing.
Well, I kept writing because it was that or get a job, you know.
Ah, that old, yes, I remember my friend, what is her name? Liza something or other, lives in Santa Cruz, and she has a sign over her desk. She's a lawyer that says, publish or practice.
Yes, exactly.
So it's kind of that same principle, huh?
Except I couldn't practice. I had nothing. There was only one thing I was fit for, and I intended to stick with that.